Does this look good all cinematic for an opener? Like, oh look, there's all this empty space in my ugly mug, so we can do this and still talking. So, for today, we're jumping out to the barn to do some sanding. I actually just came in from there and realized I forgot to cover some of the basic stuff, like basic safety and stuff like that. So, figured we'll just do it in here where it's nice and warm because it's cold. I was dealing with seeing my breath all day, plus that cold air got to me bad yesterday. So anyway, with that all said, before we jump out there, because I just want to do like a minute or two spiel, whenever you're sanding, make sure you're wearing respirators. Make sure you're watching how good your sandpaper's cutting, and if it is not getting the performance that you need and you just feel like you're not getting anything, you probably should have switched the sanding pad out a few minutes ago. They have a service life. They're disposable. Don't think for a millisecond that you're wasting money, because it doesn't make sense to sit there and be sanding with a gummed up pad when you're not getting anything out of it. All you're doing is wasting energy and wasting time. So I know I throw sanding pads away like they ain't nothing, because I hate wasting time and money. Well, specifically time, because time is my money. And yeah, so just don't be afraid to, sanding. They're not that much money. Last time I bought them, I think I was getting 50 packs for like $20. It's not bad. Especially build up a supply. Yeah, $60 to $80 for the four that I generally use, which is 80, 120, 220, and 320. Yeah, it's a lot of $80 is a lot of money even to me, but you drop it once, I can get through. I usually get 2 full-size cutting boards done off one pad per 2 boards per sanding pad per grit. So if I'm doing, like, I've got 11 more boards out there, I'll reuse the sanding pads I used in this video, and I did not use any 80 grit. Granted, I have a really nice planer that saves me a lot of time, and I keep a 50 pack of 80 around just in case, because sometimes I do get a little snipe that I can usually get out of there and hide with it, but I don't actually have to deal with a lot of it. So just keep that in mind. Is it really worth trying to salvage them? And they do make it's like an eraser stick for sanding pads. It works great with round pump sanders. So you just hold it up in there, and just like erasing it, you just turn it on and whoop. I'm pretty sure I've used them in some other videos. And when I do my stationary sanders, which will be like a stationary belt sander, stationary disc sander, I actually have 3 disc sanders and a belt sander. And yes, you guys can make fun of me all you want. My stationary belt sanders from Harbor Freight, Central Machinery, but my grandfather gave it to me, which is the only reason I haven't gotten rid of it. So I am looking at getting a better one, but until I can afford it, I'm not in that big of a hurry. I've got handheld belt sanders if I absolutely need them, and I have been known to pop them upside down in a vise. Not the safest idea, but it does work in a pinch if you need to. You can totally see my phone screen and my glasses. It's distracting me now. Right. Yeah, so with that said, let's get you out to the barn and let's get this video on the road. See you out there. Well, yeah, I'll see you out there, and I'll pass you off to my younger self because I'm an old man here. What is up today, YouTube? So I'll apologize now for the lighting. I completely forgot my one strip of LEDs and faces this way is dead. So I'm gonna, here once it warms up later next week, I'm actually gonna go digging through my house. I'm pretty sure I've got an extra strip that I can put in out here to get more light over here. Plus I can find a couple honest, I just need to buy some more light strips for out here because the four I've got out here help a lot. I think 6 or 8 total would be a lot better than where we're already at. But yeah, so enough of the shop concerns I've got. Today we are talking about different types of sanders, where I've got everything from handheld belt sanders, takes the same battery powered palm sander, corded palm sander, and we got a cutting board that I just finished pulling out of clamps. And I'll apologize now if I start hacking up a lung. I will try to stop the video before it gets too extreme. I had something hit yesterday. I could not hardly breathe for most of the day after I got home from a craft show. Yeah, it was a rough night. But I think it was just the extreme colds, because when I was unloading it was 10 degrees out that morning, and I was huffing and puffing, lifting all my boxes and stuff out, which makes you inhale pretty hard. But ordinarily, anyway, back to this. Sorry, I got about 14 things going through my head right now. I'm a bit distracted today. Got to get this done. It's currently about 10:15 a.m. and I need this video up today to keep the Sunday schedule. So we're gonna start here. This is actually a brand new tool to me, my handheld belt sander. This is the one I've had for years. You can tell it's used a lot more. I want to try this battery one out, so we're going to do that. They both work exactly the same. The difference is the one has a plug. As long as you have power, it never runs out. This one runs off a battery. So as the battery drains, after a certain point it will start to slow down, and when you start to feel when you think it's slowing down, just switch it out, because usually it's been needed switched for about, my experience with the palm sander, about 5 months. So the trick with these guys, before I get going, never stop moving. You'll start, and I'll trash glue. Quick side note, never let wood glue freeze. I got 3 of these bottles, all 3 of them, all the glue that's in them, completely ruined. Once it freezes, it doesn't hold right after it thaws out. So yeah, I didn't realize how much I left out here. Thank God this was almost empty. But yeah, I was a bit peeved with myself when I came out here after a big cold snap. So I thought I took everything in. But yeah, so when you're sanding with one of these, have it running. This is slow just so you can hear me better. You just constantly want to stay in motion and pull back as I'm moving. You can see how I'm moving down. Because if you go this way, you don't actually sand, because the belt, I'll go a little easier this way. The belt naturally moves that way. So if you're pulling back with it, you actually increase how much sanding you're getting done. Just as a helpful little tip. So I'm going to hit this just to hit most of the high glue spots. We're going to jump on the planer for this, because this is a cutting board and I usually just throw it straight in the planer. I want to see how this does for getting glue off, which makes my planing a little easier. Otherwise I'm going to have to make a sled for the planer, and I'm lazy and just don't want to do it. So eventually I probably will, because it does save time, but for now I just don't want to do it today. And I promised somebody to get a sanding video out quick, so today is obviously sanding if you didn't check the time. So when you start, you just pull the trigger and start moving. Like I say, you just keep moving. regular fabric section like before. On the other chick that don't treat it like this, let the weight of children to push down, don't actually push this through your work piece. These are definitely for as rough as that is, that actually doesn't do a half bad job. I would not hesitate to recommend this to people for newbies that want a better powered one. But I'm gonna knock most of our high spots off. There's still a few issues, but I don't use these a whole lot because they are one of the most dangerous sanders for projects. If you think you're moving, but you're only doing this and this end at the back isn't moving much, you'll gouge out in the middle of your project. I've seen it done. And it's just like, ugh. And then you either have to plane the whole board, sand it down, or do what I do with failed cutting boards, plane them a little thinner than I normally would, and throw a couple clipboard clips on them and cut them in half and make 2 clipboards out of it. Because if it's not, I try to keep it as thick as possible. It's just over 3/4 of an inch right there for cutting boards, because that way I can, if over time as you cut into them, if you bring them back to me, I can sand them back down and refinish them and get you a lot more life out of them and keep them looking good. But yeah, so we're gonna hop over to my planer. It's technically not a sander, but it's going to do the same job as this in one pass, where this will take half an hour of work. That'll take probably about 3 to 5 minutes overall to actually get this board completely flat. And once I'm done with the planer, I am gonna flush up the 2 edges and run a router over to the side, and then we'll come back. I've already talked about the miter saw in the past, so you guys know how I do that. Just lock it in and cut it. And then the router, I'm actually going to go over those in a different video because they can do so many different things. I feel they deserve their own down and dirty. So, like I said, I'm just going to knock that out real quick because I've already got a palm router set up. And actually next week I'm going to be using some of them because I'm going to be doing a build video on cutting and charcuterie boards. I've got enough wood downstairs to be able to glue one up tonight, and I'm hopefully to get that filmed and ready to go because I've only got a day and a half off before I go back to work. So with that said, we're gonna hop over to the planer. For the record, I turned and moved half a step to get over here. Once the springtime hits and I'm able to pull everything out of here and get my shop organized, I'm actually going to get a better shop tour so you can see where everything's at. That way you can, I always like seeing how other people lay out their shops because sometimes it gives me a better idea on how to make my workflow a little bit better. And when you're doing production, it's all about workflow efficiencies. So we're going to lift clear there. I've got a gauge on the front here to tell me about how much material I'm going to cut off. The first one I never want to take off too much because I'm going to be getting a lot of this glue stuff up, and that way it's not pressing down too hard. Sometimes it'll actually wind itself up. So with that said, we're going to plane this down real quick. Between planes, you'll see I turn this a half turn. It takes about, I believe it's a 30-second off per half turn. And what I'll do is sneak up on one edge. I'll get it closed, flip it over, get the other side closed, and then get the other side completely smooth, flip it back over, and usually it's a pass or two after that. So try that again. Already see after one pass, it's taken 90% of that glue off. Holy cow, that hurt. There's about a splinter from a piece of wood. So we will wrap this half turn. From this point on, I'm not going to be turning this off until I'm done. I just wanted to show you guys how much of a difference that one pass already made. So I will show you when this is close enough for me, which will probably be I'm going to guess 2 to 3 more. So yeah, that's it. Here we go. Goes to show how easy it is to be wrong. This is almost totally smooth. I still got a little wood glue there. There's minor gaps, but what it's doing is catching in the high spots with the glue on this side. So we're going to leave this at the same depth. Before I do that, I have got to turn this heater down a little bit. So I'm going to stop this real quick because I got to get in the way to get to the knob on it. So I will be right back, and all I'm doing is turning heat down because this is blowing right in my face and it's too hot. 15 seconds later and we're back. So, all right, so this first pass I'm gonna leave where it's at to hit all the high spots off. And then like I said, it's gonna be a half turn. We're gonna finish this up, and then I'm gonna do everything else like I already said. right all of a sudden, but it's working, or at least it's cutting, so I shouldn't have to be keeping my finger on the edge as I push it in. So I'm going to have to do some looking into this because something ain't right, but for now, that'll work. All I'm doing is checking to see if there's any damage or cracks or anything. Like right here in this piece of wood, cracked up to here, so I got to cut about this much off this side. Other side looks good, so I'm gonna go hit this board up. When we're ready to sand, I'll be back. I'll see you in about 5 minutes. Alright, so I'm gonna start, or well, first off, I cut all the bad spots out, and camera focus, come on. There it is. And I took off all the rough spots. So now we got to sand this. For cutting boards, I usually go 120 grit, 220, 320. If you're doing furniture that you're going to be painting, 120 to 220 is usually plenty. But if you're doing anything that's going to be using any type of finish where you're going to show the wood grain, the higher the grit, I found the better it looks. I know a lot of woodworkers that say, oh, if you hit 220, you're fine. Mainly because they don't like the sand. Me personally, I like my stuff to look good. So this is just a Velcro back with the Velcro, or with the sandpaper. I try to get my holes to line up fairly close because that pulls your sawdust out. And then, like I said, I'm starting with 120 here, and I'm just going to hit this side, flip it over, and hit the other side with the battery sander. Then we're going to transition to the electric powered sander, so you can see the difference. This one does have a thinner grip right here. The thing I like about this guy is I can adjust the speed of it. Everything from super low to go. This one does not have that option, but this one's also half the cost. So, and this is what I use. This is the one I used for years, the battery one. I picked up about a year and a half ago, I believe it was, but I do really like this. I like the fact that I don't have to deal with the cord, but if I've got a lot of sanding I'm going to be doing, I still go back to the power or the plug-in one, because I don't got to worry about swapping batteries, and I can just focus on what I'm working on, and I don't got to be worrying about anything else. Anytime you're sanding, you should always be wearing a respirator. I should have said that at the start of the video, but I might actually edit one of those in. I should do that in my office. So yeah, without further ado, here we go. And I'm gonna do one pass over this the way I normally would. I usually do at least 2. I try to hit 3 to 4 times over it. I'll pop it in a time lapse when I flip it over, and once I'm done with this one, I'll come back to talk to you guys for a minute. When you're sanding, it's not a race to get to the finish. You just want to slow and smooth. And I try to overlap my sanding pad by at least half the width. That way I know I hit everywhere. And for this, I'm taking out any high spots, any marks left over from the planer, or dents or anything from running the router over it if it got knocked into a table. And I'm also looking for any potential damage, because once you apply finish, if there's anything that looks minor, it's going to get magnified in a big way. that's what I consider one full pass. Side to side, up and down. So I'll be doing this probably 2 to 3 more times. Like I said, I'm gonna pop it into a time lapse. I'm gonna hit this side, I'll flip it over, hit the other side, and then I'll be back so you guys can hear the powered or the plug-in one, and I'll explain the differences of the two. I always run this thing at full blast just because it's easier, faster, and it's how I do it. So, but there are times where I do want that nice slow speed that when you need it, it's nice. So yeah, here we go. And we're back. So one other thing I forgot, they do make 80 grit. If you have really deep marks that you need to get out, definitely start with something like 60 or 80. Sometimes I'd even have to go as low as 40. The lower the number on the grit, the I left that on. But like I said, the lower the number on the grit, the coarser it is, the higher the number, the finer it is, or the smoother surface it'll leave behind. So like if you're doing a cutting board or something where you're staining, you want to definitely get to like 220, 320, something around in there. If you're going to be painting it, you could stop at like 120, 180, because you want a rougher surface for that paint to really adhere to. But so here we just put our 220 grit on there, and despite me not knowing this was already on, so yeah. And every so often when you are running one of these, don't be afraid to take that off and smack it around a little bit. I actually loaned this one out to somebody, and looks like they damaged the spring in my bag, but it stays open, so whatever. But yeah, actually I haven't used it since I got it back from them either, so it's been sitting for a minute. But yeah, so I'll go over this one like I did the other one in the regular video. We'll pop it into a time lapse. And then what I'm gonna do is spray this on it. This is a really nasty chemical, but it does wonders for cutting boards. It's a dihydrogen oxide, also known as regular old water. Yes, I know, I like my chemistry jokes. But what that does is, in the grain on the side here, there's little fingers. As you sand them, it'll knock them over so it feels flat. But the first time it gets wet, like you're cutting meat, veggies, whatever on it, they pop up and then it gives a real rough feeling. So what you do is spray it down with water. It's called popping the wood grain. If you do that before your final sanding, it knocks all those little fingers off and it'll actually give you a much better overall finish on the board. And once I get done with the 320 grit, that's probably all we're gonna go through today, because that's, other than hand sanding, which I have not been able to find it, but I've got a foam pad. It's kind of like this that you hook a piece of sandpaper to that you can manually sand. This video is about sanding, it's not about cutting board making. I'm just throwing this in as a little extra bonus content. But yeah, so I do want to go over the different grits and all that, which is why we're doing this. And then yeah, once I pop the grain on this, I'll hit it with our final grit, and then I'm gonna go in. I think I'm gonna record a quick little intro about basic safety stuff when you're sanding, and I think we're calling it. So don't leave yet, we're not quite done, but yeah, so here we go with the corded sander. cold as it is, it's going to take a bit for this to dry. So I'm going to do it now. Usually I do this in one step, and then I'll set it up somewhere in the summer and let them air dry. But you just real light sprays. You don't want to drench it. You just want to get it damp. This is also a good time to look at everything. And usually what I'll do is look down it like this, down the whole width of the board. Can't really see it when I'm doing on my phone though. All I'm doing is looking for any damage or any weird spots in the water, because that water does the exact same thing as finish, but it evaporates. So if there is damage somewhere, you know where to go back and resand and just redo the whole thing, because you don't want to leave a low spot in it, because it will show up once you apply oil. So yeah, I'm gonna hit this one. I decided partially through this, forget the time lapse so you guys can get an idea of how fast this actually should work. And yeah, also when I get to the 320, I'm gonna be hitting these edges to get these burn spots out. So yeah, so with that said, we're gonna finish this one up real quick, and then so pop it over to 320 and call her good. Oh, and the most important thing about running a palm sander, I almost forgot this. Lay it flat on the wood. Don't lift it up. And if you do that, you're gonna gouge this side and it's never going to stay flat. The only time this should not be flat is if you're doing a rounded edge like this, and even then I'm probably going to take it and hand sand that off while I wait for the water to dry, because you do not want to mess up your edge at this point, because you're going to have to, I'd actually have to cut a little bit off, re-edge that, and then re-sand everything so it gets that nice, there's still a bit of a sharp edge there. But when I hit it with the 320, that will knock it off. So just things I'm trying to do this is, I think, and like I said, I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I am not feeling the greatest right now. So I apologize, but I'm determined to get this done today. don't know why. I do hang on to sanding pads, but they do have a limited life. So while you're doing, anytime you're sanding, don't hesitate if you don't think they're cutting right to throw it away. So I'm just gonna pop this real quick. Got that a little heavier on that too, but. And then once you get that water sprayed on there, sometimes it is a little heavy. Just mix around with your hands a little bit. This side picked up a little bit of sawdust from my bench, which is totally fine. Because by the time I'm done with the 320 grit on this side, I'll have taken all of that off in the first pass. And even then, it's just wood and all the components that went into making this. Can't see this right now, you can't. Alright. And then for this, actually works better for me. So then just to break the edges, all I do is a little bit of hand sanding just like this. This is the same pad I'll use. This is going to be my 320 grit. There's a little bit of a sharp cut or sharp corner right there where it goes into the rounded part. It's not sharp like you're gonna cut your hand on it, but if you run your hand over it, it doesn't feel too great. And then I'm also got a few burn marks that I'm getting out. Some people will argue you probably should do this with every grit. Personally, I don't see that it does much difference just on the very edge and the round every bit that I put on it. Personally, I think the reason I don't do it with everyone, one, it saves a little time, which it might sound like I'm lazy, which I can be, but the truth is, I'm trying to preserve that rounded edge as much as I can, so I'm using the finest grit that I'm using in order to do it, so I take off as little bit of wood as possible, and it does save that edge just a little bit because I've messed them up so bad I've had to cut them off before, and I hate having to redo work, so I save it for the very end. This is pretty much dry. There's a few very minor damp spots, but the friction of the sandpaper will be enough to heat it up and warm it up enough for it to dry out. If this was summertime at 70 degrees, this thing would be totally dry on this side by now. So, but it's currently about, well, I can see my breath and I've got a heater blowing this way, so that should tell you how cold it is. I think it's in the mid-20s right now. I haven't actually checked today, but it's warm enough that I don't need my winter coat, so I just have 2 hoodies on. So here we go. Last stage of the sanding, and I'm gonna mix this up a little bit. It does not matter how you start, whether you go this way or this way. I just say try to do it, keep it about even, and at the end of the day, the board itself on this step will tell you when it's done. So you'll see me feeling it up a lot more, following behind my sander after the first 2 passes, because I've had them ready in as little as 2 and in as many as 15, 20. I don't really count when I'm doing this. It's all on feel. So when it feels good to me, I'm happy. So that said, here we go. taking it straight forward and back, but all the minor movements in the other directions, it's all from this speed. I really wish you guys could run your hands over this just to feel the difference between this side and this side. It is a night and day feel. So for this last one, actually that should work. I was gonna move it, but I don't want to set it down on anything that's gonna put a lot of potentially wet debris on it. So this case is dry. It's also where I keep most of my pen bushings, if you're wondering. So, yeah. So I'm gonna hit this side, and then we're done. Because I've got 11 more boards sitting out here that need all this done to them. And I think the video for next week, I'm actually gonna make a cutting board, and we're gonna throw some charcuterie handles on it with some other saws that I've yet to demonstrate. So I might do a down and dirty with one of those. So you guys might be seeing a lot of cutting boards, but for the next few weeks, but just understand I'm doing these as I'm building inventory because I'm low on everything right now, and I'm scrambling to get stuff made. Because I've got one of the biggest shows in the first half of the year in 2 weeks from yesterday. So I've got 13 days, and in that 13 days I work, I've only got one weekend off to be able to really focus on getting stuff done, and I'm already tight on money and wood, so I'm just trying to get as much done as I can with what I got. So the sooner I get these done, the sooner I don't got to worry about cutting boards. So that's why I'm just trying to knock them all out as quick as possible. But all right, that said, that should be dry enough to do this too now. So here we go. And if this doesn't work, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to slide it over, and we might cut it a bit early, but I think it should be okay. All right. And that is ready to soak in some mineral oil. So that said, thank you guys for joining me, and I will, like I said, get the intro done, uploaded, and we're ready to rock and roll. So again, thank you all for joining. Appreciate your guys' time, patience, understanding, special requests, all the fun stuff. And with that said, I will see y'all hopefully next week. If I don't do a live stream tomorrow, which I might, because I do want to get some lathe time in today or tomorrow. So with that said, cat in the hat, and that be that.